I don't want to be so busy, but I want to be successful.
So many of us are high performers, like high
Yeah.
achievers. We love that messaging and it sells so much shit in the online world. Like something for high achievers, so-and-so for high performers. Like
Literally.
Okay, everybody is a high performer.
I know I'm a good swimmer, but I'm in the middle of the ocean and I have no idea what the hell I'm supposed to do because I don't know which direction to go. And I think that while it's not as common, I do think there are some women listening into this that believe that to be true.
I don't have shiny object syndrome. I have recognized what the market wants and create it in the moment and rocket ship it. Like
sometimes you almost are afraid of the success, not the failure, because you're afraid that you're going to say you're going to do something and it is going to be really successful. And then you're going to be like, shit, that's not what I actually wanted to do because I wasn't really honest with myself about what was true and real for me and what I wanted.
I'm okay if people think I'm cringe. I'm okay if people think I'm wrong. I'm okay if people think I'm lame for doing this.
Similar season to what you're in, and then asking myself, do I need to be rushing? Is it just I feel comfortable rushing? I feel comfortable in the chaos because my nervous system is more comfortable with that.
Because your brain's like, survive, survive, survive. Yeah. You're like my therapist right now, but this is...
But it's helpful. It's like someone gets to listen into a therapist conversation. It's so good. Lindsay, girl, I am so excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
It's this podcast and these conversations, like you and I have had so many of these conversations since we've been friends. And I feel like you were a big catalyst and also me wanting to double down on the fact that I care about talking about this so much. And you're one of my favorite people to get perspective with motherhood about, with life about. Everything, like the things that I've asked you over the years, I don't even know. Like, it's just, you're such big sister energy. And I'm just so grateful for your friendship. So thank you for being here. I want to dive in just to kind of set the stage with asking you, what season of life would you say that you're in right now? And you can apply this to business, motherhood, the whole jazz. Just kind of like set the stage of where you're at currently.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned before we press record, this is the perfect time to ask me this because I have been thinking a lot about this. And I think from a motherhood perspective, I'm in a season, my boys are 6 and 8 right now, and they're both in full-time school. This is the first year that they've been in full-time school because Wesley did half-time kindergarten last year. So I still had him home a couple days a week. And so 8 to 3 every day, they're not in the house. So this is the first time in a long time where I felt like I have kind of alone time again during the day, or I'm not in the mental load of who's got the kids, what's the next transition between a nanny getting here, a babysitter leaving, me having to go do pickup, like all the different things. We have a really set routine, at least with the boys. And so that the motherhood season feels really steady and sweet and, not without its challenges. I've got an 8-year-old who is very much he wants you to know that he knows and he wants it his way and you're wrong. And he is very, very challenging from a parenting standpoint. And so I think I'm moving into parenting and less motherhood, if that makes sense, where I have to be both in the mother energy, but also really conscious of the values that I'm putting into them and how I show up every day so that, they're seeing me in my truth, but also if I do something wrong, I repair it and all these different things. So the mental load of it has definitely shifted more from early motherhood and the identity of having young kids, I think, and being in the wonder of watching babies grow up to now being in parent mode where I'm like, oh yeah, what I do, they will remember 30 years from now. I'm making core memories with my boys that are 6 and 8 now. These are so things I remember. When I think back of being a kid, I was 6, 7, 8 years old. This is our inner child, right? So I feel very, very much in the heavy season of feeling responsible as a parent right now. And because of RT's stroke, and I'm sure we can get into that, but my husband had a stroke in June. And so, he's recovering well, but stuff is crazy for us right now. And so I'm also trying to just be the steady force in the home. And I have always been that. That's not necessarily a stretch for me, but there's definitely a load there. And I notice little things with the boys where there's probably some PTSD from how everything happened, so I'm conscious of that as a parent. And then for myself and my own identity and my business, I keep using this word, and somebody this morning was like, define what that means for you. But I feel paralyzed, and probably relatable to a lot of people, where I left Boss Babe in April and I was very clear that I wanted to go do my own thing. I didn't want to talk about marketing and funnels anymore. It's not really who I am. And I wanted to like bring my stuff into the world. And
Yeah.
then a month and a half later, RT had a stroke, and I basically became, this whole new challenge was put onto me. And of course, like by the grace of God in the universe, I was available for that. I had that space available to become the medical caretaker and all of the things, but it did mean that all my plans went on hold.
Yes.
Um, and then I had to take over running his business, which is a whole other thing. And so
Yeah.
right now I'm like, gosh, I feel my creative energy. Like I want to create content. I want to talk about the things that are important to me. I want to like grow my own podcast. I want to be in this bigger conversation and build my personal brand. And I I feel paralyzed. And what do people even want anymore? Like what
Yeah.
will they pay for? Because the reality is I'm the breadwinner and I do have to make money, and I have to make a pretty significant amount of money. And so
Yes.
it's I have this conversation running in my head a lot right now around the financial responsibility I feel having all this medical debt and being the breadwinner, and RT not really being able to work right now,
Yeah.
coupled with I want to be in my like creative, expansive energy, and I want to be in a personal brand, and I want to like bring my workout into the world. And I have always found that those two things compete against each other in a really paralyzing way, where it's like, I want to like go be true to myself, which is what I talk about. Like, go bring your truth forward, like be your person, but like I have to make money. And as soon as you load something up with I have to make money, it's like glue in my shoes. So that's very
It,
candidly where I'm at right now.
I mean, it's so relatable, even if the situation and circumstances are different for someone listening in, where it's like, leaving something that's no longer aligned. So for context, for people that don't know, Lindsay was the COO of Boss Babe, huge brand if you don't know Boss Babe, and that was a really aligned decision. Thinking, so it's like we have this idea of like, ooh, I'm gonna leave this and now I'm gonna start this business and everything's gonna go like rainbows and butterflies and it's gonna be freaking awesome. And then Holt, your husband, who's super young, has a stroke very unexpectedly. And all of a sudden you have to swing into caretaker mode. And one of the things that we talk about in this podcast is how ambition is not just about your career and your business, but ambitious women that listen in, they channel that into every facet of their life, right? So sometimes it's just taking your ambition and channeling it into your motherhood in the early stages, or in your case, you were the most ambitious caretaker, like calling everyone, doing medical things, like doing research, like you just took all of your ambition that you were about to pour into your business and you literally poured it into your family, taking care of your kids and figuring out like what the hell was going on with your husband.
Yeah.
And I'm giving that context because I think it's really important, because sometimes we do have this idea of how something's going to go. And then when it doesn't go the way that we thought, it's so easy to be like, well, F it. Like, should I even try this anyway? So can you talk about that like stage? Because it's also like sometimes when we want to focus our energy on something, but we literally can't. For example, a brand new mom. I had someone send me a DM that was like, oh, I just feel like I'm not very productive. And she has like a 4-week-old baby. And I was like, productive? You're literally keeping this human alive. Like, but
Yeah.
but especially when you are type A, go-getter, ambitious, like it's really hard when you feel like you're halted. And even using the word paralyzed, I think is so relatable to how people feel when they're in that season. So to kind of spread that like a little bit more to the broader audience here, like what do you do? Like how do you process that? What does your nervous system do? What are some of the thoughts that are coming up in your head when you're just like, shit, I thought I was doing this and now I can't? Because it is
Yeah.
also frustrating.
Yeah. The the frustration is hard because if I was coaching someone, I would know what to say, and I say that to myself, and then I like talk back to myself, and I'm like, yeah, but like here's why I'm different, and like the rules don't apply to
We all
me.
do, Linz. We all do that.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, okay, Lindsay, you're being like, you could solve these problems really quickly if you just got over yourself. And then I that doesn't motivate me. I don't know how else to explain it, but I'm 43 years old and I've never been able to like shame myself into action. It's always had to come from a place of like what I do, which is awareness and acknowledgement that I am in this state. So I've been saying that to myself, like I feel paralyzed. I just say that out loud a lot. And like I'm home alone a lot. So it's probably sounds crazy, but no one else is here to hear me. But I'm like, God, I just feel paralyzed right now. And
Yeah.
I've done this for a long time in managing my nervous system. When there's something that feels really big to me, I just say it out loud a lot, because hearing yourself say it makes it more real for your brain to be like, oh yeah, we are really overwhelmed right now, or like we are scared, or we are paralyzed or whatever. Like, okay, that's not that weird to say out loud. And then in terms of like what I do to change it, honestly, right now, because I have so much evidence in my life that in previous times when I've been in this state, things are always working out for me, even if it's in hindsight kind of painful, you know? So I'm like, okay, I know it's going to go somewhere. Like I know the answer is going to come. And I know as a generator and as an Enneagram 3 and as a human, when I'm in alignment and I have the like big gut yes, you know, I know to recognize that. And I don't have that right now. And so I'm just like, okay, just because I don't have it right now doesn't mean it's not coming. And I know the worst thing I can do is try to force a bunch of shit. And so I'm also resisting doing that because you know, I've had a lot of logical talks with myself and a lot of like well-intentioned external coaching from people being like, Lindsay, you're a genius. Just go do this, or like go do that, or go sell this until you figure it out. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to go like be somebody's COO right now while I'm trying to figure my own shit out, because that's not like, it doesn't, it's not going to work for me. Then I'll go down the rabbit hole of their stuff and I won't figure out my stuff. Like once and for all, I've got to figure it out right now. And that's hard and that's scary, especially financially, but it's like, this is it. Like I am in the test, and I, you know, obviously lots of things have happened this year where I feel like I'm truly like in the gauntlet, but I have the evidence in my life to support the knowing of, if I sit with this and I don't run from it and I don't try to go band-aid it up with an easy solution, then the right thing will come through. So I believe the right thing is coming. And I think I'm getting, you know, I think Really Human, my podcast, and I think the things I want to talk about are really relevant and important. And people do want that from me. It's just a matter of, you know, getting to what does a business look like around this? What type of rhythm can I sustain that still gives me space in my life to be who I want to be right now? And, you know, can I be in full trust financially that I don't have to grind it out 50, 60 hours a week, especially working for somebody else, to make a good living. And I see evidence of that all around me, of course. Right. But I definitely default. It's my fear and my scarcity often leads me into default of like, wait, maybe we should just go look on LinkedIn at jobs and just surrender to it and have some security for a couple of years, you know?
I'm honestly so happy that we're having this conversation while you're in the thick of this. So like, thank you for being so honest about it, because I do think so many people can relate to this within their own story. And it's so interesting because obviously you know this, but to explain this to the listeners, you know, I remember when Sina, you know, my husband, also an Enneagram 3, who he like wanted to get into real estate investing, and he was so frustrated because he didn't know which direction to go. And he, like you, felt really confident that whatever he chose to do, he would be good at, but he didn't know what to do next. So he described it to me. He's like, I know I'm a good swimmer, but I'm in the middle of the ocean. I have no idea what the hell I'm supposed to do because I don't know which direction to go.
Yeah.
And I think that while it's not as common, I do think there are some women listening into this that believe that to be true. Myself, even one of them, where it's like, sometimes you almost are afraid of the success, not the failure, because you're afraid that you're going to say you're going to do something and it is going to be really successful. And then you're going to be like, shit, that's not what I actually wanted to do, because I wasn't really honest with myself about what was true and real for me and what I wanted to create. And that's something that people don't talk about, but it is really actually more common than we realize if we're asking ourselves, am I actually afraid of failure, or am I afraid of this thing working out and then me being stuck in that thing because it is lucrative, or because other people are validating me, or because it was the quote unquote right move. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Okay. I want to speak to, so a lot of the demographic of the podcast that's going to listen into this show is in the early trenches of motherhood. So kind of taking yourself back to that, I think one of the biggest things that people struggle with is the identity piece, right? They, prior to having the kid, they are super ambitious in their career or their business. And then all of a sudden they have the kid and they're looking at this cute little potato and they're just like, oh my God, you're so cute. And then they wonder if they're ever going to feel like they've got ambition for their career and business again. And they go through the ebbs and flows of that. Speaking from my personal experience, I've been doing that on and off for 2 years. And I'm like, now just starting to feel like, okay, this season, this works, knowing that a future version of me is not going to know what the hell I want then. Can you just speak to, because you honestly have been one of my go-to people to talk about motherhood with, especially when I come to you and I'm like, should I burn it all down? And I'm like, fuck this, I'm burning it all down. So what advice would you give to someone that's like in the thick of that early stage, who identifies as ambitious in her career or her business, but she also really wants to be present with her kids and she doesn't know who the fuck she is anymore? What would you say?
Yeah. I was funny because earlier in this conversation, we both like laughed a little when you said somebody is 4 weeks postpartum isn't feeling productive. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
sweet girl. I was
But,
there, you know,
like, I
like
get it, because I
I
remember
get
being
it.
like, am I gonna, like, it's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially if it's your first baby, you know, it's so what I'll say, especially in early motherhood, if it's your first baby, is the identity rupture is so mega and nobody talks about it. I mean, I talked about it with Motherload. You talk about it, obviously. Very few people will be really honest with you about the identity rupture and that it's okay. And that in previous decades and generations, you would have had a whole, you know, support army around you of other women who would have been like, yeah, girl, welcome to the club. Welcome to the other side. Like, here's what we do now. It's all good. Like, you're not alone. We got you. If you're feeling X, Y, or Z, there's a solution for it. And your mom did it, and her mom did it, and the aunties and the grandmas. But we don't have that anymore. So it's like you get 4 weeks out and you're like, well, I'm kind of tired of sitting on the couch and like, I've kind of figured out a routine with this baby. So I probably should just like get back on my social media and answer some emails and launch something, because your brain's like survive, survive, survive. And like, and your brain also wants to get back to comfort, which is the identity you've lived in for 30x years before you became a mother. Right. And so you've got a 4-week-old brain that's brand new in this whole new identity, and a 30 something or 40 something or 20 something, however old you are, brain that knows comfort in a previous identity. And I think as soon as you can sit with that and go, oh, okay, wow, this is like pre-baby Lindsay feeling some scarcity or feeling some boredom or feeling some lack of relevance, because when I scroll, I'm seeing all my peers continue to do all the things I was doing, but now I'm not.
Yeah.
And all these like things start to come up in you. And it's easy to be like, well, yeah, like Lindsay's hyper capable. Like, I'm just going to do both. And you can, and then it'll come back and you'll burn a little bit in a couple of years out, like I did, you know. Or you can sit in it, have some perspective, find some people like Kacia that, you know, with a podcast that's talking about it, and sit in the big discomfort of who am I now, and let like mourn the death of the ambition of the pre-motherhood version of you, because that type of ambition doesn't exist anymore. Now your ambition is always going to be measured in context with your motherhood and your devotion to motherhood. And that's great. Honestly, it probably 9 out of 10 people, 9.9 out of 10 women, it makes you better. Like there's so many things that it will deepen and broaden and enrich that you are now a mother too. But in the early days, even in the early months, there's so many messages coming through from your conditioning and previous versions of yourself telling you you're wrong about that, and that you need to get back to whatever you were before. And so I think that's the number one thing, especially first baby, is sitting in that identity rupture and just letting it be real and being super uncomfortable and not needing to have all the answers. And it's not like, oh, just enjoy these days or years because they're going to go so fast. Like, yeah, they do. And that's like pithy BS for most of us. Like we know that. And also like a lot of us, the first few months of early motherhood, it's hard to enjoy because like you're hurting and your baby's not sleeping and like you're all new. It's okay if you're not loving it, right? And that you're looking for things to go back to your older identity because that's the escape from this discomfort. And the only work you have to do in those early days and months and even years of early motherhood is to come back to yourself in the new identity and go, hey, we're all new here. The baby's new here. I'm new here. This was a hard day. Yeah. Or like, this was a beautiful day and I really feel inspired and I wrote down a bunch of ideas, but I'm not going to like force myself to act on something knowing that tomorrow might be a hard day, and trusting that ambition, a version of it dies, but it will come back. It will bloom again in the next season where you are in the spring season or the summer season of it. And I think the main thing I wish I had heard at that juncture in my life was you are not going to be irrelevant. There is so much. And I said this to you, like every time that you've created something and then burned it down in the last couple of years, it's like, it's okay. You can do it again in 2 years and it'll still have the exact same number of people that want it. You can do it again in 5 years and people will still be like, oh my God, Kacia's doing that. Great. Like the urgency that we feel to put something out in the moment when it comes to our brain is created by our patterns and our probably, childhood conditioning, like I just explained. And for most of us, it's not practical to do it in those early motherhood days. And so write your ideas down, sit in the discomfort of the new identity, and trust that every idea you're having or the things that you see for yourself now can be done in 6 months. They can be done in 6 years, and people will still want them. They're still going to be amazing coming from you. There's no rush. And I think ultimately, I said this to RT this morning, where I was like, we rush our kids so much in the mornings, like getting them out the door to school. And we have total control over that. We could totally make everybody get up 20 minutes earlier and stop this rushing problem. Yeah. But there's something about like we've said this to each other every morning for like 2 months that they've been in school. I'm like, why have we not solved this freaking problem? Why are we rushing every day out the door? And it's like, we are just people, like humans in 2025, millennials, we love to rush. We love to be rushed. We want to rush everywhere. We want to rush everything. We want stuff to happen fast. We want to be, we have the idea and it happens right now. And that is a major, major unwinding. And I think a lot of that is where that statement is coming from around, I want to still be really successful. I want to have a big business. I want to make a lot of money, but I don't want to be in the belief that I have to be busy to do it. And that is really, really hard to unwind.
It's so true though. I think we learn so much from the way that we're parenting our kids. And I do actually think you're more in like parenting and I'm more in like just keeping this human alive. And like, he's a parent, but like, he doesn't really know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. You're more learning about yourself still through being a parent. I think where I'm at now is like, okay, I learned a lot about myself in their early years, like 0 to 4. And about what triggers me and about my own identity and about what's important to me to instill in them. And now it's about applying all of that. And of course, I still learn a lot about myself when I get triggered by them now, but it's a lot less about learning about myself these days and a lot more about making sure I am consistently showing up in the values that I want them to see from me and learn from me. And that's some hard work. Yeah. but it comes on the tail of years spent doing what you're doing, which is learning about yourself. So you are prepared for it when you get here. You are.
Yeah. But I also think that perspective is really helpful for someone that's in the early stages like I'm in right now, where it's like, I just remember, I'll always remember this, where you were like, Kacia, there's going to be a time where your kids, like your kid and eventually kids are in school. And the capacity that you have from just a time and bandwidth perspective is so drastically different. Yeah. And like the needs that they have, it's so different. And I just think that's really important to remember. And a lot of like the modeling part now, like I noticed I took Brody with a girlfriend. We took our toddlers to the zoo yesterday. And, sometimes you like have this mode going in as like, okay, we're going to the zoo. We're going to go see all of the exhibits. We're going to go in this order. We want to make sure we see all of the cool animals. And as we started to go the different direction, not the path that, was maybe designed, we go this other direction. And immediately I was like, this is the experience. It's whatever this is. Maybe we get to 5 exhibits because they're super into the rhinos and like, that's the experience. But I have to consciously remind myself as someone who wants to be like, well, we got to have all the fun. We got to see all the animals, where it's like letting it be what it is and just like releasing that. And what that reminds me about myself, that in turn, I know will carry into future seasons where I'm trying to get him ready to go to school, similar season to what you're in. And then asking myself, do I need to be rushing? Is it just, I feel comfortable rushing? I feel comfortable in the chaos because my nervous system is more comfortable with that and pulling at that thread,
Yeah. Yeah. I had the boys in New York a couple weekends ago, and there's so much at this stage of parenting, I think, where I'm at in the elementary years, where I have really, really clear memories of myself at that age. And so now more than ever, I haven't had teenagers yet. I imagine it'll be there too. But like when they were babies, I see myself much more as I'm their mom. They're so cute. They belong to me. Yeah. I'm like, I get a lot more from them than they get from me. Obviously they got like survival from me, but there's this like primal feeling of cuteness and comfort and like closeness. And now that they're 6 and 8, I like a lot of my interactions with them. It's crazy because they both kind of look like me too, but I'm like, wow, this is like little Lindsay. I remember my dad saying this to me and how I reacted, and Sawyer's reacting completely differently than I did. And I don't fucking know what to say back because he's not me. And so like I'm saying something to him thinking he's going to respond the way I would. And then he says something totally different. And I'm like, crap, and so now it's this whole different experience where I see a lot of the world. Not, I think a lot of people are like, oh, you see the world through your children's eyes. No, you see the world through your own inner child's eyes that your child reminds you of. And that's how being in New York with them was, because of course I'm there and I'm like, I want to do this. I want to do that. And they wanted to go to the library and the museum and Central Park and all this stuff. But when we're there, they don't want to do the same things I would have wanted to do. Like we're in Central Park and they want to go into the bramble and like run up on the rocks in the areas that say do not climb. And, and I'm like, shit. And little girl Lindsay was like, I want to go sit on a park bench, or like, I want to go to the playground. Or I want to look at the tall buildings, and they were like, couldn't be bothered to do any of those things.
Yeah.
And so that's been really eye opening to me too, around how much of this age, it's so important. It's this big meta thing. It's so important for us to reparent ourselves if we're really cognizant of it. We have this huge opportunity with the elementary school age to reparent a lot of the wounding that we might still have. And we have this big opportunity to know like, hey, that like these memories and what I impart on them at this age is going to be the inner child dialogue that they grow up with. And so I really want to be cognizant of what I'm saying and how I'm acting, and what opportunities I give them to figure things out for themselves and all of that parenting stuff. And in doing that, it circles back around to being really, really activating in my own identity, both now as an adult Lindsay, but adult Lindsay is just an older shell over little Lindsay, who still is running the show inside, right? And so it's this whole big cycle to get all the way back down into who I really am, and looking at them and being like, wow, how cool is it that they see big rocks in Central Park and they just want to climb on them? Like that's so natural and so, like pure and innocent. And like Lindsay, when she was little, read signs and would have never done that because that's not allowed on the sign. And Sawyer and Wesley were like, peace out. We're going to climb on these rocks. There's no consequences. I'm like, wow, the freedom of that, and anyway, so I do think it's parenting becomes, it's super important this day and age as a skill, because we're trying to raise good kids that are going to grow up to be good humans.
Yeah.
And it is a massive identity opportunity to like come out of early motherhood, soften on some of that, like they belong to me and they're my baby and they're so cute and I get so much gratification from like all the cute things they do, and move into, wow, I'm really trying to shape the inner child core memories of a future adult here. And in doing so, heal or reflect on some of the stuff that is my own inner world. And I think that's what makes parenting so hard. And of course, I'm not very deep into it and I'm not an expert, but I mean, my kids trigger me every single day. And I feel like I have to repair or have some kind of conversation with them or myself or both every single day.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is so beautiful though, because it's the identity. I'm on this journey that started in 2017 when I had Sawyer, where it's like, I am always learning. Like this identity of Lindsay's as a mother now, I've never had an 8-year-old. So like, this is all brand new to me. This is new identity for me. And yeah, I was once an 8-year-old little girl and I have a lot of memories. So that colors everything. But I am still very much in a season of identity growth around what I'm learning now. And so I think ultimately parenting kids in general is just seasons of that over and over and over, where you get to the next season and you notice something in yourself and you go, I'm not really looking at Brody anymore as like this cute little thing that like I just like love and cuddle and like get so much from. I'm starting to look at him like, oh, he said some stuff to me today that really made me mad. Wow. Okay. Like I have a lot of choice here in how I take action on this. And I want to be really thoughtful about that. I mean, that is just like heavy duty work on identity in the back of our minds.
I mean, what's your take though? Like I feel like you and I and so many of our friends that are moms, like we have so many conversations around this of like being so conscious of like, even now to this day, I remember like, I mean, there's so many times that even though he's only 2, I'm like changing his diaper and like saying stuff to him that I'm like, this is what I needed to hear as a
Yeah.
kid. It's so wild. But like, I have so much hope for our generation, like as millennials, and you as, I guess we can call you an elder millennial.
Elder
Right?
millennial.
Is that what we call you?
Yeah.
But like as millennials, it's like we are so aware that we do want to parent differently than our parents. They did the best that they could with the tools that they had, but it's like now we're so much more conscious of things. So I think that's really cool in itself. And that even the way you're describing this, I love the way that you're sharing this perspective for someone that's in the early stages. It's like trusting that you're going to learn what you need to learn and
Yeah.
you're going to be able to handle it when you get there. But on that note, like how do you feel about millennials right now? Like what do you think is the biggest thing that like millennial women that are in the early stages of motherhood or about to become moms, like women listening into this podcast that care about personal growth, they care about the impact they're making, they're either building businesses or they're really growing in their career. Like, what do you think is the biggest problem that they're running into as they're trying to integrate their desire to be the type of moms that they want to be with their desire to honor their ambition? Like, what do you feel like is their blocks?
Yeah. I mean, I can only speak for myself. And then, of course,
Yeah.
you know, people that you and I know that we've been around, which seems similar thematically, which is, I think millennials are afflicted with this like more. We always need more. And we came by that pretty naturally, right? Like inadequacy. It's interesting because I obviously talk a lot about this on Really Human. I don't think that we necessarily were parented as a generation that we needed to go have excess. I think we were parented and messaged a lot that we were inadequate at just ourselves, that like we are not enough on ourselves. Like you need to be skinnier, you need to be more beautiful, you need to have more money, you need to be more successful, you need to have a better degree, you need a hotter husband, you need blah, 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 you need the G-Wagon, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
We were conditioned around inadequacy. And I think that was fairly new in generational history because our boomer parents were like the first generation that had access to choice and wealth and opportunity at the level that they did. And so they just were like, we need everything and our kids need everything. Right. And so boomers then impart this inadequacy, like the subtle inadequacy on all of us millennials. And I don't think it's like they meant to make us feel shitty about ourselves. I think it's just when you get messaged through your entire childhood that you are not XYZ enough, that then you become an adult who's like, well, I need more because I'm never enough. And it's just this like subtle theme that's running in us constantly. And so that's what makes us high performers. Like so many of us are high performers, like high achievers. We love that messaging and it sells so much shit in the online world. Like something for high achievers, so-and-so for high performers. Like,
Literally.
okay, everybody is a high performer. Like, does anybody you know identify as a mid-level performer? Like, oh, I'm not a high performer. I'm like a moderate performer. Like nobody's going to self-identify as that. Like we have a whole generation of people and we all identify as high performers. And it's this like myth that was put onto us in that, okay, if you're a high performer, then you always need to be out in this search for more. And I think what happens for a lot of us is that search for more, at some point we hit a wall where we're just exhausted. And maybe it's motherhood, maybe it's like a rock bottom in life. Like that's what happened to me, right? But maybe it's just you're one of the lucky ones and you kind of come upon it without a big trauma and you're like, I'm just like over it, dude. Like I don't want to anymore. And I think it's happening for a lot of us right now because also the world we're living in is just so intensely myopic where we can see all of this so much and we're going like, actually, I don't want to have to make this much money. I don't care about my car. Like I work from home. Nobody even fucking sees my car. I don't go anywhere, you know, like why do I need a G-Wagon? For the record, I've never wanted one. I've never had one, but I'm using it as an example. Like,
Totally.
Why would you need a $250,000 car? Like I live in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm going to go to Costco in the post office today. Like, you know, so, but there was a time in my life where I was like, I need an expensive car, you know? And so I'm just using it as an example. There's plenty of things that I spend money on that other people be like, what? But all of that is to say, I think that's what we're afflicted with is this desire for more that feels unrelenting. And it's not that I think a lot of us believe, well, we live in a consumerism economy. Like capitalism is the problem. Patriarchy is the problem. Like, oh, big dick energy, all these things. Like, sure, those aren't great. But the real problem is that we grew up in an era where our parents and society around us was really, really profitable. And like a lot of people were making money and becoming successful and feeling good about themselves by making us all feel really inadequate. And that drove consumerism. It drove all the things that we saw explode in the 90s and the 2000s that we're all responsible for as millennial consumers. And now we're getting old enough where we're starting to recognize all of that in ourselves and in the world around us. And we're just like, wait, what? Like, I don't want more. I don't ever want to move from this house again. Like, yes, I have a big, beautiful home and it's expensive, but like, I don't need a bigger one. I don't ever want to move again. You know, like it's not, I'm done checking boxes of what's next, like 12th grade college, master's degree. Like, okay, I got a nice, beautiful home. I don't want a bigger, beautiful home. Like, and so I'm starting, and I know a lot of us are getting to this point where we're starting to get to the bottom of our checklist of our life. And we're like, well, I've checked all the boxes. So I don't really want any more. Like I have everything I've wanted. And maybe like you're listening, you're like, well, I don't have everything I want yet. I still do want a bigger house or a nicer house or a different home in a different part of the country. Or I do want a nicer car, or I haven't met my partner yet, or I haven't had kids yet. Like that's good. Those are still your boxes to check. But at some point you'll get to a point where you're like, wow, I pretty much have all the things that little 7, 8-year-old Lindsay like really wanted for herself.
Yeah.
And now I'm paralyzed back to where we started because I still want to feel my ambition. I still want to bring myself out into the world in a meaningful way. But if I don't want to contribute to this feeling of constantly needing more and constant urgency and constant, like inadequacy, and I want to just be myself and be happy with myself and share who I am truly as myself, I have to do a lot of work this day and age to reconcile that desire with the world that we live in. Because the world we live in has been built by all of us and our predecessors to be really rooted in scarcity, really rooted in inadequacy, really rooted in overconsumption, really rooted in comparison. And it is not very safe feeling to come out and say, I'm just going to be me and I don't know how I'm going to make money, but I'm hopeful that I'll figure it out. Like there's plenty of ways to do it, but I absolutely refuse to go continue to participate in this pursuit of more for the sake of soothing some deeply rooted inadequacy that's not even mine, that comes from mom or dad or grandpa,
Do you feel like that's why there's so many TRADWIFEs popping off? Like,
yeah,
the whole movement of that?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Just
and I think like
direction. Like
I think women love to call. Yeah, I think in TRADWIFE it's so interesting because that's all women labeling other women as that. There's no man being like these TRADWIFEs. Like
that's so true.
Men are not looking at what women are choosing and making judgments about it. At least not. That's not where I see it coming from. Right? I see a lot of the like TRADWIFE criticism coming from other women, and I think it's this cycle in women who are very triggered and very activated by seeing women kind of opt out and go back into more of this traditional way of living, which isn't even like anti-feminist at all. We could go into that. I'm not an expert on feminism, but like wanting children, wanting to be home with your children, wanting to have a slower pace of life is not anti-feminist at all. But I think we get activated by that because we're also conditioned to stay out in the market, stay out in the job market, keep competing with men, keep competing with other women, keep achieving, keep doing the next thing on the checklist. And as soon as you start to see women be like, actually, you know what? Like, I like my little house on the prairie and I'm going to make some sourdough and I'm going to homeschool my kids and I'm going to sell this digital product workbook or recipe book or whatever it might be and have, brand deals with my 300,000 followers. Women see that and go, wait a second. Internally, we don't say this out loud. We say TRADWIFE, anti-feminism. But what we really mean is like, wow, I wish I could make money and feel successful in a lifestyle that's less frenetic and less urgent and less busy. But I haven't figured out how to apply that template to my own reality yet. And I'm saying all of this because I feel this way too. Like this is definitely where I'm at right now, where I'm like, how are all these women making money to support their families when they like bake sourdough and have chickens all day? Like, how is this possible? And the reality is I know some of these women personally, and they're talking to me behind the scenes and they're making great money selling digital products, selling, doing brand deals and affiliate deals. or they made money in something else in their hustle era, and now they have enough money saved that they don't have to make as much money. And that's another really, like, I'm on a rant. That's my last point on this. I think a lot of what we're seeing in TRADWIFE world is women who have actually been hustlers for a long time, for their entire 20s, and they actually made good money and they were responsible with it. They saved it, they invested it, and now they don't need to make 50, 100K a month. They can make 10K a month,
That's
pay their mortgage, pay
right?
their,
Like, you know,
yeah,
that's literally like, and I even felt that way when I closed on Empower Her, where I was like, whoa, this is wild, because I've been an entrepreneur for a decade, and like the network marketing money, like we were living so below our means, and like investing in real estate and some of the things that we did, where I was like, this feels weird to be able to have a choice now, which I feel so grateful for. A prior version of myself, I feel so just like privileged and honored to get to do that. But still, even when it wasn't from need, because I do think I will die on this hill. It is so much easier to move from back against the wall
for
than from
sure.
things are good and to try and put your like get foot on the gas. It's so much easier to move that from that place, and I've moved from that place before, and I've built businesses in that realm, and it's worked. That hustle, to your point. And it's so interesting because I still struggled, obviously you and I talked about this, but for sake of this podcast, it's like I still struggled a little bit being like, wait, so when I introduce myself to someone on the playground, if I'm home with my son, am I still like going to get the check in her head that I'm like cool and capable and that I've like done some big shit? Do I want to like asterisk, like right now I'm home with my kid, but what I used to do is I actually used to work at Google, and then I left the corporate world, and then I did this and I built this big business and earned several $1 million, and then I built this huge podcast, and then I decided to close it because it's like, shit, girl.
Well, I mean, what's interesting is, what do you think? Like, I think this is the self-inquiry point that you can represent for your audience is,
Literally.
what do you think about when you meet somebody like that? And you're,
I literally give 2 Fs. I look at their like how, if they seem like they're just like excited to be with their kid, that's what I look at, and I'm like, ooh, I'm happy for her.
I was watching a reel this morning of a creator I follow talking about the hurricane that's went through Jamaica, and saying how before she was a mother, stuff like that's not happening in her neck of the woods. She would have just been like, oh yeah, there's a hurricane, I think. And now she's like, I just feel so heavy, like deeply affected by it today. And I could not figure out what is going on. And then I realized I have this undercurrent in my mind today that I am so devastated for all these mothers who are stuck on an island with their children. Like, and she has a baby, and she's like, I have a 6-month-old. Like, there's got to be thousands of women in Jamaica that have 6-month-old babies who are stranded on an island during a Category 5 hurricane. Like, I'm sick to my stomach about that. And I was like, ooh, that's it. Like, that empathy and that like understanding is something that I think develops the deeper you get into motherhood, and you just have this kind of camaraderie with other women. And so when I see people that are opting out and going into quote unquote TRADWIFE life, or I see someone at the playground and I don't know what they do for a living, like my kids go to a charter school. There's many, many moms that I volunteer with that don't work. And, they're well known by the teachers because they've had multiple kids go through the grades, and they've always been the volunteer coordinator and all this different stuff. And I'm like, wow, cool. Like, what a different level of reality. At no point these days, an old version of me would have, but no point these days am I like, oh, how nice. Like, you're just a TRADWIFE. Your husband makes all the money and you don't have to do anything but volunteer at the school. No, I'm like, wow, how cool for your boys that I'm thinking of this one woman. She's got 4 sons, and her youngest is in my oldest grade. So like, she's got her last son going through school right now.
Yeah.
And she's there a lot. And I'm like, how cool that your boys had their mom volunteer in school their whole lives. Like, cool. That's something like I didn't have as a kid. And I always wished my parents could volunteer on stuff at my school, but they worked. My mom had to work, so she never got to volunteer, So I don't know. I think there's a lot to this perspective on how when we see stuff like this happening and we start to judge it, it's like, it's this invitation to look at what's really true for us, and
Always.
and like neutralize that feeling of judgment by going, okay, I wish I could spend a little bit more time at home with my kids, but I'm a lawyer. I have to be at the office, or I'm a surgeon. I have to be at the hospital. Like, I don't have a job where I could be a quote unquote TRADWIFE, but that doesn't make the TRADWIFE version of this woman I follow wrong.
That's the
She's
thing.
just,
That's the thing. And I think it's such a good perspective and such an important conversation for us to share, because I'm noticing it in myself as I'm in this stage where I'm like, it's not judgment. I'm not saying like, oh, I wonder if she has a big career, or I wonder what she was doing. In my head, I actually, when I see someone like the moms that I saw at the museum today, I'm like, in my head, the story I create is like, they made a decision to be with their kids. I hope they're super excited about it. Oh, she seems really happy. Like,
Yeah.
this is great. Look at us with our kids, painting at, and all these 2-year-olds running around. But it's not from the things that I was worried about judging, which of like judgment from other moms. It wasn't from other men. It was from other moms, or from feeling internally like I was like, quote unquote, wasting my potential if I wasn't building this big thing. And then it's like, wait a second. It's such a mind game where you have to like realize like, what am I triggered by? And then what can I learn from that trigger? And as soon as you learn it, you feel so free. Like, I love being a mom, and I love that I'm also building a business, because right now that's what feels right for me. And I have zero judgment towards my friends that have full-time childcare. I have no desire to have full-time childcare right now. Like, you and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
But in a different season, or if I had a different idea of something that I was really excited about, I would 100% opt into that. And it's like, if we could just stop the judge, like, I hate it so much. And
well,
I feel it.
and
So
it's like, it's just, it's myopic, right? And it goes back to this like much larger conversation about the algorithm and like our appetite. Like, somebody sent me a DM the other day in response to one of my episodes about the algorithm. And she's like, the algorithm just feeds your own appetite. Like, it's conditioned to know what you're hungry for and give you that. So it's not the algorithm's fault. It's your fault. And I was like, no, you're right. Like, and that's a really great word for it, because if you think about this appetite that you have to have your beliefs and your opinions confirmed, we live today in 2025 where literally the device in your hand is built to give you that. 20, 30 years ago, when we wanted our beliefs confirmed, we had to like do the actual work to go find community of people that were like-minded.
Find people in person.
Right. We had to like build community. Now we can scroll and the algorithm's like, she's pissed off about TRADWIFE today, so she's going to find a Maha account or something. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
And you can get that gratification to confirm your belief and your bias instantaneously. And so we aren't forced to sit with it and go, well, what's actually true here for me? Like, am I actually mad about TRADWIFEs, or am I just feeling like the career I chose that I love requires that I spend a lot of time away from my kids, and that's hard for me. And those things can be true, right? Like, my best friend is a surgeon. She's a cardiothoracic surgeon. She has worked for 20 fucking years to be able to operate on people's hearts. Like, she is incredible, and she's like top 1%. It's crazy. Yeah. She has 4 kids. And so she's like, you know what? I knew from the day I chose this career that I wanted to be a mom, and that with this career, I would miss a lot of their childhood because of residency. I would be on call a lot, and I would be at the hospital at 7 a.m. And, I'm not somebody that can like volunteer at school. I'm not somebody that can show up to the park on a Tuesday at 10 a.m. Right? Like, I'm not that person, but they see me doing something that I have worked hard to do for 20 years, like from undergrad through medical school, residency, all of that stuff. And now she's, a big fancy surgeon here in town. That's cool. Like, her kids have a totally different experience and context and like inspiration from their mother than someone who's at home from day one, not working, quote unquote. And like, yet we all have opinions and feelings and beliefs when we look at each other and go, well, she works too much. Her kids never see her. And she looks at the ones who stay home and go, well, she never made anything of herself. She's a TRADWIFE. It's like, well, wait a second. What's really true here for both of us? One of us, like, you work a ton and it means you miss out on your kids. Like, that's true. And that's sad and hard, but you also are living your ambition in a really aligned way. And it's amazing. And you save lives, like, so freaking cool. And then the TRADWIFE woman, the woman who's not working or whatever it might be, it's like, okay, you're in a season where your kids need a lot of you. And that doesn't mean that in your 40s or your 50s that you won't go create something that's incredible. Like, or that the work you're doing at home, raising all these kids, those kids chose you. They need that kind of mom, and that work will pay its dividends back 10, 20, 30 years from now when those kids are adults and they go create something incredible in the world. Like, your work plays out through your generations and your kids too. It's not just your own, 2 hands creating in this world. And so I just, like, my invitation, obviously my soapbox on all of this, but the invitation I have to everybody is, in those moments where you're really activated to judge another mother's way of doing it, is such an invitation to come back and go, what is true here? Like, what is really going on that I'm so quick to heart a TRADWIFE post, or I'm so quick to see this woman at the park and be like, she must not work because she's here on a Tuesday. Like, you and I work and we're at the park on Tuesday. It doesn't right. So it's all this invitation to go into the new identity, the motherhood identity, and go, wow, what's lacking? Where am I missing something? Like, what unhealed part of me or my inner child is activated right now? And maybe soften around my judgment, because it doesn't serve anybody to live in a place where you're just constantly judging everybody else. So that's my rant.
Feel good in your own body either. And like, it's like your perception of the world. Like I was telling you this actually on Really Human, on your podcast, where it's like Brody is strapped onto me facing out. So we go through the world and he loves waving at people and smiling at people, and people then smile and wave back at him because he's constantly smiling and waving. And I love it. It's so fun, right?
Yeah.
And so his perception of people, and then in turn, because I'm carrying him, my perception of people is like the world is full of great, happy, excited people, because that's my experience interacting with people. So it's also like taking responsibility if we feel like we're constantly judging, or we're feeling like we're always pointing the finger at like, why, like it could just feel lighter if we just let it go. Like just like exhale and let it go a little bit, which also I just want to plug I want to ask you another question, but I want to plug your podcast, because Really Human, and you can explain what it is, but from my perception, Really Human is so important because the types of topics that you're talking about on your show, like obviously you'll touch on motherhood and ambition and things that we talk about here, but like you're talking so meta about our experience as humans going through life, in particular with like AI. And like, I listen to your podcast and I'm just like, I'm so glad I'm friends with her, because if I have like a follow-up question, I can be like, Liz, hello. Like, I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing. So tell people why you decided to start Really Human. And then I have another question for you.
Yeah. I mean, Really Human came from everything that happened with RT's stroke, and then just looking at the world over the last, you and I were voice noting a lot over the summer, where I'm like, I want to have a bigger conversation, but I don't want to like tell people how to do it, because being human is a one-on-one experience, right? Like, we're all going to have our own version of it. And my version is one of one. Right. But I do think there can be this conversation right now about what makes us really human in an AI world, and what makes us really human in an algorithm world, where we naturally or maybe unnaturally are being coerced in a way to give up our agency and our truth and our discernment to these tools that think that we think know better than we do, right? And I watched a lot of AI. We used AI a lot in Boss Babe. I use ChatGPT all the time. I freaking love ChatGPT. But I was watching
ChatGPT is like your side piece, boyfriend.
I love it. I know.
You're just like, you're talking to ChatGPT in like the wee night hours. That's the relationship.
That's when I do my best creative brainstorming.
Yeah, that you like ChatGPT, you're in love. Okay.
Yeah, but I get a little freaked out by these people who are like building like Lindsay AI, and it's their voice, their face, their like book of work, their body of work, and it's all in an AI that you can like buy, and then you just have access to them. And I'm like, I don't really love that. It's no shade. Like, I know lots of people that are doing it, and it's great. Whatever, it helps people. It's all good. But it's from a like existential human standpoint, it freaks me out, because I feel like then you start to condition the human brain to hear an AI version of someone they know is a human, but that person's voice on an AI. And I just don't think the human nervous system is ready for the level of discernment that requires. And it freaks me out that like, okay, in like marketing or funnels or social media captions, okay, whatever, like not that big of a deal.
You did ChatGPT.
Sure. But like, we're not that far from you getting, like now it's a leader, a political leader, or it is some person with a significant amount of power.
Crazy. I just saw one she was like, this is me and this is the AI version of me. And I could not tell the difference.
Right.
And I knew what it was and I was looking for the difference.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. And then you think about like young impressionable minds and what an algorithm plus AI can do to a brain that doesn't have the millennial discernment, because we grew up analog. Like, I think millennial brains are the last ones that will actually recognize AI and like have that little twinge of discernment to go, this doesn't actually feel human. Mm-hmm. Whereas like Gen Z and the younger generation, because they've had devices their entire life, like I really do worry that they won't know what's really human and what's not. And so I'm like, I got to have this conversation. And it's not about like the right way to be a good human. It's about the things that make us really human, so that when you are trying to discern what's true for you as a human, you know where to come back to, because it's not like, I love ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is not going to tell you how to be a good human, right? Like ChatGPT is going to tell you how to, it's going to give you an opinion that keeps you on the platform, just like the social media algorithms do. And so you have to have these things that are uniquely human, that I talk about in Really Human, like art and nature and awe and service and excellence, like things that require being a human to feel, so that you stay human. And so that's what it's all about, is all those things. And like, you know, of course, back to our earlier conversation, I don't know what it's going to become, because I don't know that it's like something to be monetized. Like, I don't know that people want a course on how to be really human. I don't think I do, but I want to hear conversations about it. And I just think it's hyper relevant and really important. And after going through all the medical stuff this summer, where our medical system was just shockingly inhuman, I was like, okay, this is it. This is where I have to go next.
It's so cool that we get to do this. So I want to encourage people listening into this show that, like, you need another show in your rotation, like go add Really Human, go subscribe to it. Lindsay and I did a really cool episode together recently, like a couple weeks back. So good. Okay, to close this out though, Lindsay.
Yeah.
When your boys, you know, when they're older and they talk about how you showed up as a mom and honored your ambition, what do you want them to say about you?
I mean, I want them to say that they, and obviously I don't think they'd use these words now, but in the future, you know, that I was present, even when I was working, that they knew they could come find me. They never wondered where I was. I wasn't like, so much of what I remember, and like, bless my parents, was that they were just shells of themselves, even when they were home, because their minds were elsewhere. And I've always tried to be so intentional with my kids that they feel my resonance when I'm around them, and I'm very present with them, even if I'm not like my best self and I'm frustrated with them, like they feel it, right? Like I'm not, however I show up, like I show up in like full generator energy. Like they feel the warmth and the energy of me. And I want them to remember that and know that and like be able to describe that. And of course, like that the biggest thing I've tried to do now, like more in parenting than in motherhood, is that I listened to them and I believed them. Because what I find, especially with my older one, is he's a manifestor in human design, and he's like a know-it-all, but not in like a sassy way. He's so observant. He's so smart. He reads at a 5th grade level. Like he just has learned a lot of stuff, and he picks up on everything and all these little nuances and things that you don't even think he understands or knows or heard you say, and he'll throw it back at you. And so like a lot of times he actually does know something, and he is telling you he knows it. And it's triggering as F to me, because I'm just like, well, you're not right. Like I didn't say that, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, crap, like I can't gaslight him that's not true, because that's what my parents did. You know, it's like what a lot of our parents did, things that we saw when we were little and we asked about or we reacted to. And they're like, no, Kacia, like it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. Or that's not what you saw, or that's not true. And then they learn, they start to feel this dissonance between what they feel is true in their body and what their person they care the most about in the world is telling them is true. And so I really, really, it's very important to me that I validate what's true for them, and then redirect if I don't want to talk about that, or clarify if it's wrong, or like, you know, they missed something that's important or whatever. And especially when it comes to their bodies, that like I honor what they are saying is true in their body, you know? And so it's not like every time they're like, I'm a sore throat, I don't want to go to school, that I'm like, cool, okay, stay home. But it's like, I'm not like, no, you're fine, you know? And it seems small and trivial, but I think that stuff starts in the body, and it grows into the mind as they get older, where if they feel seen and heard and believed, then they grow into humans that are regulated and can speak their truth and can stand up for themselves. And they make good decisions, not because they're being coerced by a parent with strict rules, but because they like want to be good humans and they want to take care of themselves, you know, like I, I start flash forwarding ahead in my mind. I'm like, what is Sawyer going to do when like somebody offers him alcohol, you know, when he's 16? And I'm like, hopefully he's heard me talk enough about why I don't drink alcohol anymore.
Yeah.
That he'll be like, oh no, I don't want alcohol. It's not good for your brain, man. Like I'm going to sleep like crap. And then I won't feel good tomorrow. I'm not going to drink that. And like, bless. That would be the best day of parenting ever for him to be like, nah, I heard mom say
he
like,
comes home and he tells you what he said.
yeah,
You're just, or like a parent tells you. Oh,
yeah.
man.
And like, I hope my kids will come home and tell me stuff like that. Like that is success, you know? So that's what I want them to feel and remember is like, I was deeply resonant and they could always feel my energy and I believed them and I listened to them. And like, I didn't always let them be right about something, but I didn't gaslight them when something was true and it was just inconvenient to me. So
I love it. Beautiful. Okay, Linz, for people that want to connect with you, obviously they can find your pod, Really Human, and Instagram. Tell me your Instagram.
Yeah, probably Instagram. I'm just at Lindsay Roselle, and Really Human is We Are Really Human at We Are Really Human. But yeah, Instagram's the best. I can't really bring myself to get on any other platforms. So
yeah, you do you. And also, if you want to see some chickens randomly, you don't
oh my gosh,
what shenanigans Lindsay's going to get into. It could be really entertaining for you.
Yeah, I've recently actually after this recording, I'm going to go pick up my new. I got a new batch of chickens there at the post office. I got a phone call that they're in, so I got to go get them.
This is your life now. I love it. All right, I love you so much, Linz. Thank you.
Love you too. Bye.